Hello, everybody. Good times for all here. Zachary Zabala, if you prefer. It's a beautiful day here in North Carolina. Birds are singing, moon's overhead, sun's out. Rained last night, so you can hear it sounds like rain falling, but it's not actually rainfall. It's just there's not even wind blowing through the trees. It's more or less just the water being dripping off the trees. I miss so much being in the forest. This is gorgeous out here. I just love it. But we'll get to it. Today's video, we are going to be taking a look at seeds. Um, how to collect them. The complete guide to saving seeds. It's got vegetables, herbs, flowers, fruits, trees, and shrubs. That number right there really grabbed my attention. When I saw 322, I thought, wait a minute. So many of these books will put over 300 or 250 plus. Very, very rarely do you see the books put it out in the exact number like that. So when I saw 322, hey, maybe there's some real information in there. Maybe that's one of their little, but it teach you how to preserve seeds. um, yeah, it doesn't say that it's just for North America or anything like that. Coffin More, or Gough, and More, by Story Publishing. Let's see, this one was $24.95 US, and it's somewhat old. It's probably 6, 7 years old now. But just huge, just full of great information that if you want to be, self-sufficient and live without the need to go buy seeds, you can go out in the wild and gather seeds. A lot of these plants are out there in places. I really don't want to sit here and just read through it. Okay, we'll get into it a little bit. Why bother? Okay, those amazing seeds. This would be interesting. The beginning is just talking about why they're doing this and yada yada yada. But seeds are amazing entities. Those witchweed, Striga iotica, which is a parasitic weed, are less than 1/100th of an inch long, as small as dust motes on the wind. A teaspoon will hold millions. About 350 spinach seeds, moderately sized as seeds go, fill a teaspoon. In contrast, consider the coconut. Each seed is as large as a cannonball. So yeah, it's just like everything else. They come in great, different variety of sizes. Um, every viable seed, nature has packed an embryo and a small food supply, a sort of box lunch, to nourish it during its seed life. The nucleus of every cell in that seed contains in its DNA the complete instructions for making a plant like itself. Blah, 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 blah. Um, how marvelous is it to ponder that a spinach seed in its very self contained the entire... Okay. Da 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 da. Why bother saving seeds? Talks about social unrest, um, times of war, like in your country. It can be life or death. Let's see. Save money, preserve diversity, go on adventures, create your own plants. How to use this book, yada yada yada. Saving seeds, the basics and beyond. Okay, and then there's the one thing about these books is they use a lot of big scientific words. Okay, it says flowers come first. Sexual reproduction in all higher plants begin with the formation of flower buds. You know what? We don't even need to get into all the... I mean, if anybody really wanted to hear it read, but it's full of information. But I'd rather get into certain plants and how to do it. It's getting that time of year to where you really want to start harvesting your plants, your seeds. Okay, flower terminology, pollination, the purple coneflower, an amazing plant, antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. Okay, let's see. Let's get into the actual seeds. Promoting germination. Yeah, it takes you all the way through everything, to planting it and everything. Transplanting. Okay, saving vegetable seeds. All right. What varieties to grow? Okay, choosing open pollinated varieties helps to ensure consistent seed saving results. If you are depending on the seed to feed your family, it's best not to save seeds from F1 hybrids. Yeah, this stuff will be back in the book somewhere. Hey, Savage, how we doing? Had fun on the show last night. Okay, so if you save seeds from hybrids, now I've actually done this. You do not usually produce plants with the same attributes as the parent, but the plants may yield some very interesting, unusual, and delicious vegetables. I mixed a jalapeno pepper plant and a banana pepper plant, and it was like a mixture of the two. And the person I gave it to, it only made one pepper on that plant. I had it in a place that didn't get a whole lot of light. It was just more of an experiment to see if I could actually get it to create a fruit. And it even created seeds and whatnot. But it was, yeah, it was a mixture between a jalapeno and a banana pepper. Um, so yeah, I've seen this happen before. Uh, Whether to adjust plant spacing. Some vegetables, particularly biennial crops, require more space during their reproductive phase than they do when they're simply vegetative. If you live in an area where biennials will overwinter, thin your crop to the recommended spacing. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Avoiding unwanted pollination. That's hard to do when you're outside. Yeah, even if you grow open pollinated variety, you can still end up with undesirable results if one variety pollinates another. Some species, such as beans and peas, are self-pollinating, and others, though typically self-pollinated, can be cross-pollinated by insects. Self-sterility can occur as well. The seeds we'll eat, such as beans, peas, and corn, may be inedible if undesired crosses occur. And in the case of squash family plants, one type of crop can pollinate another. If you allow your butternut squash plants to be pollinated with pumpkin pollen, seeds you have from those butternut squash won't produce butternut the following year. So that's very important when it comes to, how many, keeping that same type of plant going, keeping it an heirloom, um, to where it is only pollinated by other plants of its species. It's hard to do. I'm sure it's possible. Well, it has to be possible. They do it, but I don't know. It's all in here. Okay. With crops that aren't usually grown to the seed stage, such as kale and collards, cross-pollination is less of a concern because it is unlikely that there will be any kale or collard flowering in your neighborhood other than the plants you're raising. Okay. The right seed collection technique. Okay, listen to this. Some types of seed pods are easy to collect, but other types may burst open and shed their seeds before collection. Seed heads of certain crops, such as carrots, shatter very easily. You may need to bag these crops to avoid seed loss. With other crops, such as tomatoes and eggplants, you'll have to separate the seed from the soft flesh. Each plant entry covers the recommended procedure for collecting seeds. Okay, so I think we're going to go over, we'll do 3 plants. We don't want to get too overloaded with information. If there's any plant anybody would like to see in specific, just shout it out. But I guess I'm going to start, I don't like artichokes. Let's do arugula. Arugula is, it's like a leafy lettuce type plant. They'll mix it in with lettuces. It doesn't have a picture of it here. It says, okay, it's from the mustard family. The Brassicaceae plant type, it's an annual. Annual means that the plant is going to die during the wintertime, during the fall. It only has a certain lifespan. It's just like the animal kingdom. We have fruit flies that live for a day. We have, dogs and cats that can live, 15, 20 years, some maybe 7 to 10 years, depending on the breeds. There are, certain mammals that have a year or 2 or 3, just like birds that do 70, some birds that don't. Just like everything else in the animal kingdom, plants are the same way. There are certain plants that only live for a short period of time. There are those that live 1 year. There are those that will live for a few years, like your herbs, certain things like that. Then you'll have trees that can live for hundreds of years. It's the same in the kingdoms. You have a great variety of them. Now, arugula, like we said, is an annual. An annual means you plant it in the spring, it lives its life cycle throughout the spring and summer, and then in the fall, it'll drop its seeds, and that's it. Once it drops its seeds, it'll try to survive, but most likely, I've kept pepper plants, which are supposedly annuals, alive for 3 years with a heat light. So it really has to do with where you are on the planet as well. A lot of them are based on sunlight. Their whole life cycle, they have to have a certain amount of sunlight. And once it gets less than that amount of sunlight, the plant can no longer survive. That's why you don't see citrus trees growing up north. Even if you keep it in your kitchen during the wintertime, I have a buddy that does that, it doesn't produce fruit. The fruit never matures. It doesn't have long enough, the cycle isn't long enough for it to reproduce. So even if you keep it warm and all that kind of stuff, the tree can still live, but it'll never have the chance to reproduce an offspring because it doesn't have the right amount of light. Yes, exactly, Nick. Sunlight, not necessarily heat. You have to have a certain amount of light for plants to survive. A lot of plants up here, especially up in northern Indiana where I was, we would get negative 30, negative 40 degrees, and the trees were fine. My herbs were fine. I had kale that was it lived 2 seasons, and I never covered it up in the wintertime or anything. There are hardy plants out there, that you can go and step on and it would kill it, crack it, but this thing can live through -10, -20 degree weather. Um, so there's always food out there. No matter how cold it is, you can always have a food source. Yeah. Yeah, after a few years, yeah, you'll get cross pollination from other plants. It I was talking a little bit earlier, it's really hard to keep a heirloom seed line going. You have to, really love that plant and protect it even from pollination from other bugs. You really have to keep the flowers protected, and you do the pollinating with others of its same species that haven't been crossbred. You can make your own fruits and vegetables by cross pollinating certain plants and then taking the seeds from those fruits and planting them. I had crossed a banana pepper and a jalapeno pepper, and it turned out, the lady who I gave it to said it turned out pretty good. And then I just stopped it there. I just wanted to see if I could do it, if it would work. So arugula, a leafy vegetable, is an annual. It lives out its life cycle all within the one season. Flowering, arugula bears white or yellow perfect flowers that are primarily cross-pollinated. I'm not sure exactly what it means by perfect flowers. That means probably means it's perfectly symmetrical. Isolation requirements. Provide as much isolation as you can since this plant is insect pollinated. The name of the book is The Complete Guide to Saving Seeds, 322 vegetables, herbs, flowers, fruits, trees, and shrubs. It teaches you how to collect them, how to store them, how to germinate and then replant them, and even um, taking off little starts, cutting off, starts. And yeah, it's a really neat book. I bought it. The thing that caught my eye was the 322. As soon as I saw that, I was like, wait a minute, why would every book I see like this is yeah, no problem. Every book I see like this is 300 plus, over 300, 250 plus. They usually don't get precise on the amount in there. And when I saw 322, I thought Skull and Bones, and I thought, hey, maybe this is one of their little signs and signals that shows that, this is real information, or I wrote this, a member of blah, blah, blah. I don't know. It just popped into my head, but I would have bought the book regardless. So here we go. It is insect pollinated. Although there are a few varieties that will cross, most gardeners do not allow their arugula to go to seed. And you do that by just clipping the top. Most plants grow from the center out, and the leaves, as they grow out of it, will fall down. And if you don't clip them, they fall down on the ground and they rot, and more leaves just keep popping out. Well, eventually it'll cap itself. It'll start producing flowers. Now, if you want your plant to keep producing more leaves, you just clip off that top part, and it doesn't allow it to go, it doesn't allow the plant to mature. It keeps going into the flowering. It, it'll keep producing those leaves. It'll stay in its fruit stage, its grow stage. Not the fruit, sorry. The grow, the bloom, they call it. And it, it, I don't know. It almost feels wrong doing it, manipulating plants in that way. To me, I don't like to, but I understand if you need food. Hey, Ted, how's it going, man? If you need food and you only have a certain amount of plants that year, you know, so many died or this and that, then yeah, keep doing that. Keep clipping them, you know. and getting your food. But if you have an overabundance of food, it's really not necessary. I don't know. I'll get into this at the end more. We'll get more into um, the arugula plant. Like I said, it's a leafy lettuce. It's not bad. There's so many different varieties and blends that have been cross-pollinated and whatnot. You can definitely find one that you like. Okay, so most gardeners do not allow their arugula to go to seed, nor does arugula cross with any other species in the Brassicaceae, so in that family. So it is unlikely there will be much chance crossing in your garden. Recommended isolation distance is 1/2 of a mile. Isn't that crazy? A half a mile. If you really wanted to isolate it, you have to keep it away from all the other arugula plants. It's yeah, it's amazing. Bees go, they travel. All kinds of insects travel real fast. They can pollinate. Cross pollination is hard to stop. You really have to love your plants. Okay, so seed collection of the arugula plant. The fruit is an oblong silica with 2 rows of seeds in each half. Harvest the fruit when they are brown and dry, but before they open. Okay, did you hear that? So the fruit is brown and dried out. It's not edible anymore. You don't want the water in there anymore. You want to let the fruit hang on the plant until it looks dead and God, I wouldn't touch that thing. That's when the seeds have matured. That's when the plant has matured enough to put all into those seeds that is needed to recreate another plant. It's just like us. The plant has to mature so much before it can start producing offspring. We have to get to a certain age and a certain transformation has to happen in us in order for us to produce an offspring. The plant world, it's the same thing. So you wait till they're brown and dry, but before they are open. Then dry them further for 1 to 2 weeks in a warm, dry place. So now you put them in a dry place that's warm, maybe by a water heater, something like that, something that will always stay warm. It's always going to be warm right there. If necessary, you can pull entire plants by the roots and hang them upside down to dry further. So you you want to make sure that they're brown and dry already on the plant before you do that. You don't want to go picking, a fresh fruit, pulling the plant out and thinking that the fruit will then mature on that plant. You wait till it's brown and dry, and then you can pull the whole plant and hang the plant. When this happens, it's like the plant knows, and anything that it has left, actually with the fruit being dry, the stem's probably all dry, there's not much information maybe traveling back and forth through that, I don't know. But when you pull a plant, when the fruit's fresh and hang it dry, it takes all the nutrients out of the roots and it shoots them down into the fruits. Now, if the fruit isn't mature, now if you were doing that just to eat, that'd be one thing. But if you want to collect the seeds, like we're talking about here, you want to wait till it's dry and brown, your arugula seeds, the fruit of it. The pods will split open when dry, so be careful not to let seeds drop during collection. That's why a lot of people might put them in a bag or hang them above a bag, a paper bag or something like that, or even just set the fruit inside of a paper bag, because when it does, it just pops open and stuff will just fall right out. Okay, seed cleaning and storage of the arugula plant. After the pods are fully cured, flail them in a pillowcase or burlap bag, or strike the plants against the inside surface of a garbage can. Okay, so you want to get all the seeds out. That's pretty much what they're saying. So you could take the seed, the whole plant if you have the whole plant, and just they say bang it. I don't know if I'd be banging it, but bounce it back and forth inside that can. knock the seeds loose that are, kind of stuck in there. Or take the fruit, the dried brown fruit that you have that's popped open. Okay, it's thing where it's popped open. There might be a couple seeds left in there. Put it into a pillowcase or some kind of bag and just shake it up. But be careful not to break the seed coats because damaged seeds will produce inferior plants or may not germinate at all. So, just like us, we have our skin on us. We don't want our skin to have a big tear and rip in it. That wouldn't be good for us. So just like them, you want to keep them, don't sit there and do it real hard and this and that. Now, they're very tough, but then again, if you're talking about survival and food, you want to be as careful as possible. It says winnow. Not sure what that is. Then store the clean, dry seeds in paper bags or envelopes in the dark, dry area. Again, dark. You don't want them to be around sunlight. And dry. No moisture whatsoever. You want to keep them um, from pollinating. You don't, or not from pollinating, from germinating. So it says germination. Optimum temperature range for germination is 60 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 25 degrees Celsius. So you want to keep it below 60 degrees or 15 or 16 degrees Celsius in your storage. Your storage should be cooler than that. A cool, dry place. Transplanting. Arugula is usually direct seeded to the garden as a spring or fall crop. So there isn't much transplanting going on with arugula. It doesn't really branch off too much, so there aren't many starts that you can cut off of it. It grows from one stalk in the center, and then all spreads out from there. So that was arugula. Should we do asparagus? Asparagus takes usually at least 3 years to, after you plant it, before you can even start harvesting it. It grows wild all over, I don't know about all over North America, but throughout the Midwest, a lot of places, just on the side of the highway. It's a early spring. It's one of the first vegetables that fruits. And you'll see people in the springtime all along the highway in Indiana, the state highways. It grows wild. People must have planted it whenever, you know, years and years and years ago. But there's quite a few people that know about it, and they just go up and down the highway cutting off asparagus, fresh asparagus. Um, I've never grown it just because it takes so long, and the taste is okay. So I'll skip asparagus, I guess, unless anybody has any objections, and we'll go to the bean. Sound good? So, wow, this has a bunch of different beans in it. So you have your dry bean, French bean, Friole, green bean, haricot, kidney bean, runner bean, snap bean, string bean, and wax bean. This will cover all these different types of beans right here. It's a legume. It is also an annual. You'll plant it, it will grow, the fall will come, it will dry out and harden up, and the plant will die. We call those, again, annuals. That isn't annual. Then you have your perennials that live through the winters. Okay, seed viability, 3 years. It says you can store green beans for 3 years. See, I don't know how true this stuff is. I think you can do it for longer. Um, we'll find out. I have some stuff I've been holding for about 7 years. So I'll find out. Okay, flowering. Beans bear perfect flowers that are arranged in racemes. They are primarily self-pollinated. So you don't need another bean plant around. One bean plant, you can plant one bean. It will grow, it will have flowers, the bees will jump from, or insects, whichever one, um, the, they'll jump from flower to flower on that plant, and the plant itself can pollinate itself. It doesn't need a partner. They call those self-pollinators. That's one of the reasons beans are so great. Um, and they grow everywhere. Flowers usually open at night with the anthers dehiscening just prior to opening. The first ovules are fertilized within 12 hours of pollination. Isolation requirements. This is of the bean. There is little outcrossing with snap beans, but planting a tall crop between patches of different varieties may provide added protection against cross-pollination. So, so you put some beans, you have another different type of plant, maybe, you know, whatever, corn, something that grows up taller. And then you put another thing of beans, and that'll stop them from cross-pollinating, even though there's little outcrossing. Okay, seed collection. The fruit is a dehiscent legume or pod. Plants may be determined bush type, indeterminate, a runner or pole. So, like, you'll have pole beans and bush beans, and all the different kinds. It's amazing how beans have transformed throughout the years. It's or designed the way they are designed. You can have your green bean in a bush that just stays in this little small bush, grows about yay big, and you'll have a bunch of little beans growing up it. Then you'll have a green bean that you can plant the bean in the ground and it'll grow a real long pole and climb up something. Usually people will give them something to hang on to, like an awning or something like that. And they'll wire themselves around there, and then they grow, all their fruit off that one little wire. Um, I prefer pole beans just because they don't take up as much space and you can plant them real close together. But people like the bush beans. Okay, so you have your determinate or your bush bean, your indeterminate, your runner or pole, or semi-determinate, a half runner. Determinate types will flower, fruit, and mature over a short period. So your bush bean is going to mature quicker. Indeterminate plants will flower and fruit over the life of the plant. Thus, the flowers and pods will be at various stages of development at any given time. So the bush bean more or less gets a bunch of flowers, they get pollinated, and there's your flower, and there's your beans. While the pole bean, that's another reason I really like the pole bean, is because it has beans hanging off of it pretty early. It does it throughout its whole life cycle. And once the beans start coming, it'll still keep producing flowers. Even though it has fruit that's already being grown and put all this stuff into it, it will still make another flower that can be pollinated. And then in that way, more and more beans will grow throughout your season. Pole beans make a lot of beans. You can plant one row of pole beans. They only need a couple inches of spacing. I usually do about 3 inches apart. And I'll plant a long row of them, a 20-foot row, and tie something up above them. I like using the clothes hanger wire and just 2 stakes in the ground. And I run them maybe I'll get it about 4 feet tall. And that whole thing will look like a big green wall of leaves with just beans hanging all over it. And by the end of the season, I usually leave so many on there because I'm done picking them, I'm done canning them, I'm done. They taste great right off. If you don't let the beans get too big. Um, the bigger beans are more hardier, have more protein, all that kind of stuff. But the small ones, if you're going to eat them raw, I go for the smaller ones. They're real sweet. So, okay. Pods are ready for harvest when some are dry and the remainder have turned yellow, about 6 weeks after the pods were of fresh eating quality. So you want to leave your pole beans hanging 6 weeks after you would have picked them. 6 weeks after you said, oh, I got to get out there and pick those beans today or they're going to go bad. You wait 6 weeks. You leave them on there for a month and a half longer. And then you go out there to collect the seeds. You, like we talked about earlier, you don't want to try to collect seeds on a plant that's, green and fresh and looking good. You wait till that thing is barely hanging on that plant and hasn't gone through its mature stage to where it opens up to drop seeds. And then you gather that fruit to then get the seeds out of it. But yeah, they tell you to let it hang after some are dry and the remainder have turned yellow. So some are already all brown and shriveled up and dry hanging on the plant, and most of them are yellow now. Most of your beans are yellow. Cure the pods for 1 to 2 weeks in a warm, dry place. Again, this is a warm, dry place. This is the curing process. You're drying it out. You don't want it cold yet. You don't want it to hold on to any moisture. You want it in a warm, really dry place where all that water is going to just evaporate out of it and suck it out of that bean. And that's for 1 to 2 weeks. If necessary, you can pull entire plants by the roots and hang them upside down to dry further. The pods will split open when dry, so be careful not to let seeds drop during collection. So again, these by themselves, you don't go and crack them open. You don't go and, you don't break that pod. You let the pod open itself. Then it's mature, then it's ready, then all the information has been passed through into that seed to then create another plant that can do what you want it to do. So seed cleaning and storage of the bean. After the pods are fully cured, shell the bean seed. So that's when you take it out. Shell small quantities by hand. Flail larger amounts in a pillowcase or a burlap bag, or strike the plants against the inside of a surface or a garbage can. Again, I don't like the word strike. Bump them up against the edge. Just, you know, you, that's just me, Bubba. It's okay. Just give them a nice tap. You don't have to strike them. Take care not to break the seed coats, because damaged seeds will produce inferior plants or may not germinate at all. And on a bean, there is that little thin film that will be around it. You let that like harden to it. It's like its shell. Again, winnow, I'm going to have to look that up. I'll know what that means when we do this next Saturday. Then store the clean, dry seeds in paper bags or envelopes in a dark, dry area. Again, dark and dry. You don't want the germination process to happen until you want it to happen. Germination. Optimum temperatures range for germination is 60 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 to 29 degrees Celsius. So again, if you can, try to keep it in a place that's cool, cooler than 60 degrees or 16 degrees. Doesn't have to be, but someplace cool. Soil temperature should be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit or 16 degrees Celsius to produce a good stand. Beans planted in warmer soil emerge more quickly. So, just because last year you planted your beans and in 3 days they were up, and this year you planted your beans and it's been a week and a half and I'm not getting anything, don't go dig up those plants. Maybe the soil temperature hasn't gotten to the right point yet, or it's just there, while the year before it was already much higher. So the seeds just and sprouted right out. So be patient with them. Let them take their time and do what they're going to do. A few weeks go by, you check the soil temperature, it's well above 60 degrees or 16 Celsius, then there may be something wrong. But give your beans time. Transplanting. Beans do not transplant well and are usually direct seeded to the garden. Again, you don't have a lot of shoots that grow off beans and then produce the fruit. It has one main vine and then the beans stem off of that. Even on the bush beans, there's like a main set of things in the center, and you'll have to. There isn't the. It's like one stem with a lot of stuff growing out of it. Where if you want to or if you want to do the transplanting, where you clip it and stick it into your growing solution, willow water works great. We'll talk about that some other time. You can't do that with the bean; it just doesn't work. And we'll do one more. Now they have a lima bean and a fava bean. So remember, we didn't mention the lima bean or the fava bean. Again, annuals, legume family, 3 years. Okay. The temperature is just a little bit different. Whoa, it's way different on the lima bean. Okay, if you like lima beans, uh, soil germination is from 77 degrees Fahrenheit to 25 and 25 degrees Celsius. Wow. Well, that says optimal. It also does say that at 61 degrees or 16 degrees Celsius, germination can start. So there's not a whole lot of difference that I'm seeing. Um, but there is, okay, fava bean, broad bean, horse bean, English bean, European bean, Windsor bean, field bean, tick bean. So it is its own type of bean, different type of plant. Um, a lot of it looks the same. Isolation 1 mile. Germination, yeah, about the same. It says no transplanting, and same with the lima. It doesn't. Okay, and now I'm getting a crop alert for the lima bean here. It says lima beans need a long, warm growing season to produce a good crop. In short season locations, they seldom ripen enough for eating, let alone saving seeds for replanting. If you're a northern gardener, consider this crop a seed saving challenge. So, the lima bean is more, you want to be in a warmer climate that has a longer season. Okay, we'll finish off with the beet. Um, I've grown beets. It wasn't difficult. Um, I was helping an old lady, and she loved beets, and I grew her a whole bunch of beets, and I was pickling beets for her, and yeah, beets grow pretty good. So, it is a crassa, part of the crassa group, goosefoot family. It is a biennial. You can plant beets twice in a season. Seed viability, it says you can save them for 4 years. Spacing for seed saving, you want to put your plants when you're doing the seed saving, because usually beets you can plant pretty close. But when it says when you're spacing for seed saving, that you want to give them 18 inches. Now, I'd put it to the test, but I wouldn't doubt that 18 inches would work better. Um, you get more flowering, your beets have a chance to spread out and grow larger, therefore giving the beet more seeds. It makes a bigger plant when you give it that much room. Gets more sunlight, gets more water, all that kind of stuff. So really anything you should almost, if you're going to be collecting your seeds, you should almost have a garden set aside for that, to where you have one of each plant in there, or maybe two if they, or you could just cross pollinate themselves, or they'll do it. But give them a lot of room. If you're going to be collecting seeds, you want that plant to be the biggest, strongest plant that it can be. So then next year, that information will then, transfer into that next plant, hopefully. So saving, that's the first time we've seen that in this book. Spacing for seed saving, 18 inches. And it also says at least 6 plants. You want to get seeds from at least 6 different plants. Now beet seeds, they're not super small. It's not like a radish seed or anything, but they're somewhat small. Okay, isolation requirements. Beet varieties will cross-pollinate one another, and beets can also be fertilized by sugar beet and Swiss chard pollen. Beets flower stalks may be bagged or caged if the plants are closely spaced. Be sure to put the enclosure around at least 6 plants to ensure adequate pollination, because beets will not self-fertilize, will often not self-fertilize. So it is possible, but it's not common, I guess. Beet pollen is light enough to travel for miles on the wind. Isolate uncaged varieties by 1/2 to 2 miles. Separate unprotected beets from flowering sugar beets and Swiss chard plants by at least 4 miles. Like I said, it's not easy to do. It's stopping cross-pollination it's tricky. So seed collection of the beet. After most of the flowers have turned brown, cut the stalks at the soil line. So you wait till the flowers have turned brown. Then you cut the stalk at the soil line, but keep them bagged because the seed heads shatter easily. So you put a bag around the whole stalk and you cut the whole thing off right at the soil line, right up, as close down to the ground as you can get. Move the entire combination to a cool, dry location and cure for 2 to 3 weeks. So you take everything you just cut off, not just the seeds, that whole thing, you put it in your bag, you put it in your cool, dry spot. Now this one says cool, so that's different. Last one for the beans, it's at a warm, dry place during curing. Interesting. So now you want a cool, dry location to cure your beet seeds for 2 to 3 weeks. Seed cleaning. Remove the seed balls. These are actually dry, shriveled fruits. So the seed is actually, what looks like a seed is actually the fruit. From the stalk by hand, remove the seed balls from the stalk by hand, or place the stalk in a bag and flail. Then winnow to separate the seed balls from plant debris. So pulling the fruit from the plant. Soak seeds in water overnight. This is seed treatment. Or wait, I forgot seed cleaning. Seed cleaning of the beet seed. Remove the seed balls. These are actually dry, shriveled fruit. Oh yeah, we did this one. Okay, then seed treatment. Soak seeds in water overnight before planting to reach the germination inhibitor found in the seed coats. So before you go to start germination, before planting, you want to soak your beet seeds in water overnight. The optimum range of soil temperature for germination is 50 degrees Fahrenheit to 10 degrees Celsius. Minimum temperature for germination is 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius. So beets you can start off early. That's why it's a biennial. You can start them off early in the spring, have a full mature plant by, midsummer, early summer maybe, and then start a whole new set. Beets are usually direct seeded to the garden, but can be started indoors and transplanted if desired. And that's it for the beet plant. So next week we got broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbages, Chinese cabbage, carrot, cauliflower, celery. We're not going to do all those. No, we might. So I'm going to end it off with just a little talk about how we treat our plants. And really how we treat all our food. I was talking about it last night a little bit on IRM, and it used to be different with food. When you have to feed yourself and you're taking care of this plant and you're growing it, you're hoping, you're wanting it to be as big and strong and healthy as it can so it can produce food for you and your family. Now, over time, you learn that the more time I go out there and I take care of that plant, and I care about that plant, and I love that plant, the bigger and stronger this plant gets. You know, the more fruit it produces for me and my family. Now, you start putting more and more love into the plants, and you really start creating a bond with the plant. There's even those who will take the seeds that they're getting ready to germinate and put them underneath their tongue for 10 minutes or so to allow this interaction to occur between you and that plant at the earliest stages, to where now it has a piece of you in it. It knows you. It knows what you need. It knows what you are deficient in. And it can start putting its intent into creating these things that you need. Just like you go out there and you get the right manures and you get the right, whether it be acidic. When you start really caring about these plants, you learn about them and you learn that, hey, this one does really good when I put a lot of oak leaves and pine needles, the real acidic stuff. My berries just take off. They love it. So you go out and you find this stuff for them every year and you make sure they have that because they need that. They like that. The plants will do that with you as well. They will grab this stuff right out of the soil and say, "Oh man, this guy, he needs more iron. Let's get all the iron out of this soil that we can, and we'll give it to him." And you and this plant will create this symbiotic relationship. And eventually, after a few years, sorry, oh, it hurts. Just thinking about it, it hurts when you pull their fruit. Hi, baby. I know. It does, doesn't it? I know. Dad doesn't like doing it, does he? No. So it is. When you do this, it's a sacrifice. It is. It's not something you want to do, you know. But you know the reason that you started this process. You know that it has to be done. But it's still that feeling of sacrifice. The moment before you do it, it's not a great feeling, but the plant, it feels that. You know, you throughout this whole plant's life cycle, the more you put into it, the more of yourself you put into it, the more you're going to, you know, the more nourishment, the healthier, the cleaner, the vibration that plant is going to create is going to be, so pure and so clean that you, in turn, are healthy too. You are more pure and healthy and clean. And it needs to be like this with with everything that we consume. There needs to be care and love put into it. Um, and really, when you create these bonds with these plants, like from before germination, you put that seed in your mouth. That plant now, hey, Karen B, how we doing? We haven't heard anything yet on the, it might be today, we're hoping. But yeah, you create this bond with these plants. It's, the plant will know what you need. Like I said, it's going to go, if you don't have enough iron, that plant is going to go search for iron for you. If it knows you, you have to have that bond,
chemical transfer between you and the plant. That's why it may happen by just by touch, just by you planting it. But I know quite a few people that will actually put the seeds in their mouth to start that germination process. So then that plant knows them intimately and go find the things that they need. Um, so yeah, the more care and love you put into your plants, especially the ones you're going to consume, a little shop of horrors, hey Trav. But yeah, they respond. I I know they do. I've seen it. You can get plants to do all kinds of things for you if you just ask them, and then give them things they need. Show them a little bit of love. Venus flytraps do grow around here. I don't know how big I can get one, but we can work on that. Hey, what's going on? Yeah, go check out Effie Vikings videos. He's building his wonderland out there in the woods. It's a beautiful sight. Keep it up, brother. I love it. Hank Pink, okay. Well, folks, I'm gonna get running here. Somebody, I think, yeah, okay. You gonna go potty? Oh yeah, that's a definite yes. So I love y'all. Shout out Hank. Thanks Ted. Ted says hi. All right, he's like, yeah, I need to go out to the bathroom now. So I love y'all. You guys have a great day, and I'll be seeing you maybe Tuesday morning if you're there. If not, maybe next Friday, and we'll do one of these. I'm thinking every Saturday we're going to be going through the complete guide to saving seeds. We're doing this right now because now is the time to learn about this information. Now is the time to start gathering a lot of the seeds that are, growing in your garden, stuff like that. So if you have any certain plants that you'd like me to cover, leave them in the comments below, or be here next week and just shout them out. And we don't have to go in alphabetical order. We can go whichever way you guys like. So I love y'all. Have a great day. It's good times for all. Signing out. As always, thanks for watching.